you have a numbers matching vehicle, or has yours been Frankenstein together?
Welcome to the episode, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the numbers on a vehicle and concept of matching numbers and the different numbering conventions on the various components like transmissions, engines, differentials. When I bought my project car, which is a 1967 Mark I, I was naively under the assumption that it was a numbers matching vehicle. So let's discuss what that means. As a distinction needs to be made, a numbers matching vehicle in the car industry means that the car was original. The engine and transmission and differential and all the parts that are on the vehicle came with that vehicle the day it arrived at the showroom. Now, this is different than component matching, which just means that the bits and pieces on the vehicle are from the correct year of the vehicle, but could be from other donor vehicles or aftermarket parts. As it turns out, on my project 67 MGB, it's neither. It is a Frankenstein, I call it, where at some point the engine had been replaced with a newer year engine. But it seems like the other components, like the transmission, differential, are from the car, but that's where we're going to go with this video. I'm going to explain all of these concepts in detail. So on the MGB, which is a monocoque design where the body is separate from the frame, there's really four main components to it. There's the body, which will have its own number. There's the engine, which will have its own number. The transmission similarly, and the differential. Again, we're going to get into all of this, but if the vehicle is matched, a numbers matching vehicle, all these components will have some record showing that they came from that vehicle when it was made in the factory. To the average person, the only number they'll ever be cognizant of is the VIN number, the VIN, vehicle identification number, and they need that when they're registering the vehicle and making it legal on the street, that type of thing. But when you're restoring vehicles, you want to know about these other components and their numbers. First thing to discuss is the vehicle identification number, or VIN number. And on the MGBs, they're all over the place depending on the year. I don't have time to describe that, so go ahead and Google it if you need to, but let's talk about the 67, the one I'm working on. The turquoise car is showing where the tag should be. Now, of course, on mine, because it had been in a wreck in that particular area, my tag was missing. Fortunately for me, it was theoretically stamped on a plate on the inner main frame of the vehicle, right-hand side, as shown in this picture. This picture is actually of my vehicle. And the plate is there, and although you can barely see it, it does have a number on it, and I gotta say I lucked out because it does match the one that is on the official paperwork. So when I go to register this vehicle, I'm actually gonna be in a legal situation. Well, what this number represents is not really the VIN number as we use here, certainly in the state of Florida. It's the chassis number. The VIN number actually has more information. It's got a coding system that starts with G and then has various numbers and letters that represent a little more information about the vehicle. So let's get into that. Here you're seeing the title for this vehicle, and you can see in the upper left corner the important data, which is this number that starts with GHN 3L, and then the chassis number that we saw previously. That corresponds to the chart you're seeing here, where you can see what the various letters mean. So in my case, G is MG, H is the engine series, N means the two-seat Roadster, 3, which is the important one in this case, does prove that it's a Mark 1 somewhere between 62 and 67, and L is just left-hand drive. But that code of 3 is what makes the vehicle more valuable in my case. The next thing we'll discuss is the body number. And on an MGB, the body is a monocoque design as the one you see above, meaning it can exist on its own. It doesn't have to be on a frame to keep itself together. So the body has its own number. Now, this is even worse than for the chassis number, which is what we discussed previously. The body number is on a tag somewhere on the body in the engine compartment, and I can't get more detailed than that. I actually have 2 tags that I pulled out of the engine area, and they're shown here, and one of them is the body number, but if so, I don't know what the other one is. So I'm keeping both of these tags around just in case. But just know that the body number is separate than the chassis number.
This can get a little complicated, but you're doing a good job at explaining it.
And next is the engine number. Ah, yes. This is what led me to this whole nightmare of researching numbers, because I found out that my engine does not match my car's year. So the engine actually has 3 separate components, each with their own identification tag. There's the number stamped on the block, right into the casting, that in most cases will have a date code. There's also a tag that is riveted onto the engine, which has a longer number and tells more information about the engine as a whole. But then the actual head has its own stamping. So you can have a head that doesn't match the block. And so that just complicates things even more. But here's what I've found about where these numbers are located and what the various codes and numbers mean. Let's look at these date codes on the stamping, the castings. Here we're showing the block. It says 17E3, and you interpret that as the 17th day of E. A, B, C, D, E is the 5th month of the year, and then the 3 is simply 1973. One last tidbit of information as you're counting off the months based on a letter. They skip the letter I because it looks like a 1. So just remember that when you're going E, F, G, H, K. So to get to months of November and December, you'll skip I. Similarly, you might find what they call a date clock, like you're seeing here. It's got the same information, 3 pieces of information, a letter and 2 numbers, and then you read it the same way we read the last one. So this would be the 13th day of letter E, which is May again, and 1975 in this case.
Don't forget to hit those buttons.
So as I mentioned previously, The riveted on tag here contains more information about the engine in general. So here you're looking at the tag on my engine. I've cleared it up so you can see what the numbers and codes on it actually say, because they correspond to the following table. So my engine tag starts with 18V672Z, which if we look on this corresponding chart, will tell you what year that engine was put together. In my case, August 72, reading directly from the chart, which I'm rebuilding in 1967. Thus the cause for my depression. But looking at the other information in that tag, you can see from this chart the wealth of information that code offers up. Just for giggles, according to the chart, my car, which is 64 to 67, early 67, should be an 18 MGB motor. Some markets for that year, late 67 had a GF engine, but I am now in hot pursuit of an 18 MGB engine. And last but least, we have the cylinder block head, which has its own date system and can further complicate you trying to figure out if your car's number is matching. So this table shows the various casting numbers for the head based on the correct year for the vehicle. In my case, my head is very wrong, even for the block that it's sitting on. It seems to have been an aftermarket. So at least be aware of this and know what you're looking for. Here's a couple of images showing that the casting has a similar stamp in it, showing the part number and also the date clock, so you can date the head to when it was fabricated. When it comes down to it, there's basically two transmissions, one with all synchromesh and the earliest one with only 3 synchromesh gears. And depending on the back plate of the motor is what they will and won't make to from an engine standpoint. I'm not addressing an automatic transmission that came out for a short while, but no one wanted it, so there's really not to say about it, and it's certainly not on my car. I searched on my transmission for some type of identification number, and I just could not find one. The one number I did find didn't cross-reference to anything. So recognizing what you have on your vehicle is pretty much just based on sight. So there's 4 possibilities. First off is the bare bones model that was on 62 to 67. It's a 4-speed with 3 synchro. First gear is not synchro, and its distinguishing features are the side plate, which is not rectangular, it's a polygon, and where the gear shifter goes into the tranny, it goes directly into the casting. You could buy this transmission with an optional overdrive unit shown here that would fit it, and what the overdrive does is it gives you 2 extra gears so you're not revving so high when you're on a highway or something. What we're showing here is some pics of that same transmission, but with the overdrive unit installed. Notice that it still has the non-rectangular side plate, but it has the characteristic bulge at the rear end of the overdrive unit installed. And notice that now that the shifter does not go directly into the casting, it goes into a bolted on piece. From late 67 on, they introduced a 4-speed with all synchromesh gears. Its distinguishing feature, which sets it apart from the previous transmission, is the side plate, which is now rectangular, and the shifter goes into a bolt-on piece rather than directly into the casting. Here's a couple of more images of that transmission, so to help you distinguish it from anything else. Now this transmission also came with an overdrive unit, which we'll discuss now. So here's a pic of what they call the LH overdrive unit versus the D unit on the previous. This picture shows the hollow sinker mesh gearbox with the characteristic rectangular plate, but now notice the bulge towards the rear end. That is the overdrive unit, making it distinguishable from everything else. The last major component was the differential, and as shown here, there was a stamped number, which again didn't seem to reference anything, but it boils down to there was two differentials, the banjo style and the tube axle style. From 62 to 67 they used the banjo, and from 67 on they went with the tube style axle differential. I'm showing pictures here of both types so you can discern which one you have. Basically the banjo does not have any bolts in the characteristic circular pattern that you can see from the rear end of the vehicle. So to sum it up, there's four major components: the body, the engine, the transmission, and then lastly the differential. And these can be mismatched on your vehicle, or if you're lucky you have what's called a numbers matching vehicle, which means that all the parts that were put together for that purchased vehicle are still in it, meaning nothing has been swapped out. In my case, for the 1967 Mark I that I'm restoring, I have three of those. I have the body, I have the differential, and I have a transmission that are from the right period for that vehicle. That doesn't mean they're the ones that came with it, but it's rare that a differential or a transmission goes out. It's typically engines that blow up, and I have an engine from a later model year, in this case a 72, 73. So use what I'm telling you to help figure out what you've got sitting in your garage, and that will help you figure out if you have a complete car or one that has been Frankenstein together from different bits and pieces.
Farewell. I hope your car is not pieced together like me.